Hello, everyone, and welcome back to TNT Go Dutch. I'm Travis,
And I'm Tracy.
and today we're going to be talking about something that we've done, which is move across the world from a place in the U.S., Texas to be specific, all the way to a country we went to once.
Yep.
And what did we think when we moved here?
That we were crazy.
A lot of people, when they first come to Europe, come to the Netherlands specifically, they think, we should move here. This is a great place. You can speak so much English. It's so easy. Let's pack up our entire lives and move over.
But the reality is it's not for the faint of heart. So to answer the question, should Americans move to the Netherlands?
Probably not.
Probably not. And this is why.
We've got quite a few reasons and quite a few things that we want you to be fully expecting before you move over and have a full education of what you're going to see.
By no means are we experts.
No.
These are just some of the things that we personally have experienced. And like you said, a good way to educate yourselves before you decide to make a big leap thousands of miles away from your home.
With that, though, we have actually left our city of Leiden, and we're exploring another city.
We are in Woerden today, which is just a train stop outside of Utrecht if you're coming from Leiden Station Lammerschans.
Yeah.
So we don't really know what to expect. It's not going to be like one of our city videos where we're diving really deep into it, but we did want to take you along with us as we explore the city and share with you our thoughts on if Americans should move here or not.
So we'll get right into that list, but first I think we should have a quick cup of coffee and get into it.
Always a cup of coffee. Let's go.
Let's go. Tracy, what's our number one thing that people should think about before they move over to the Netherlands?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily in this order, but space is a big one. And that's our number one.
And you see this because a lot of the living space that you have is going to be a lot different here than it would be in the US. Like, for example, for about what we have now, it's maybe a quarter of the space that we had in the US.
Yeah, things are a lot more spread out. You most likely will share walls with a neighbor.
Here you will, yeah.
Yeah, for sure, especially if you're living in the Randstad, where, you know, the Netherlands is the most populous. You may get some more space if you move outside of the Randstad. The likelihood of you doing that, though?
Yeah. So you end up spending a lot of your time, your outdoors time, because many of the places here are apartments. You end up sharing it with other people in outdoor spaces. There's lots more community parks, and the community parks are actually used here quite a bit.
Yeah, and that actually is a nice benefit of living here. The likelihood that you're going to have a big yard, probably not likely.
Yeah.
One thing you'll also notice when you're looking at space and your living space, and Dutch housing specifically, is the Dutch like to build up and not necessarily out, and a lot of that has to do with historical tax purposes, right?
So it used to be that you were taxed, it may still be, that you were taxed on how much of your house actually frontage on the road or the main street. So you may have a house that's only 4 meters across, but it's also 3 stories tall, 4 stories tall. Our neighbors have that, where they have a 3-story house that's not very wide, but it's so that you can take advantage of it. And that's actually the reason why we have Dutch stairs. Now, if you watch some of our videos, you know how Tracy feels about Dutch stairs. But on the whole, you may also end up in some of these bigger cities living on the 3rd or 4th floor, and some of them don't have any type of elevator or such. So if you have, like, for example, Eric from Soul to Soul, when he had his incident recently, he had to walk down the stairs because they wouldn't have been able to fit a gurney or had an elevator to take him down.
Yeah, very different.
This also takes us into number 2, which
This
is
is a big one.
the housing scarcity that exists here in the Netherlands. So even if you can manage to get over here, it's going to be really hard to find a place to live. We've had people, a lot of the Facebook groups we're in for Americans moving over here, they're waiting months and spending weeks trying to find housing.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of people preying on immigrants who are coming over here. There's a lot of scams in terms of housing. So if it's too good to be true, it probably is. We were really fortunate in our housing situation. But I mean, I think had you been 2 hours later on Parias, we probably would not have gotten the house that we did.
And if you want to see how we did that, we have a video where we talk a little bit about that. But it is definitely one of the situations, if you're coming up here thinking that you're going to bring 800 euros a month for a bedroom, 1-bedroom
in
apartment.
Amsterdam,
yeah,
think again. Adjust your expectations big time. And you're probably going to need way more money than you think you do.
Yeah, and it's also on top of that, you know, the electricity bills, the heating bills, all of those types of stuff start to add up really fast. So when you are coming over here, really think about the space that you're looking for. Maybe if you go out a little further east, you can find something, or you come to a smaller town like this one, you might be able to find something as well, but you're going to have to commute. It's just like living in the bigger cities in the US, where if you go out to the suburbs, you get a little bit more space.
So if you are planning on making the leap, definitely bookmark all of those Dutch housing sites and jump on it as soon as you can, because it's incredibly competitive. Things tend to go well over asking, and yeah,
a lot of the times they will go the same day that they're posted. So
yeah, it's pretty crazy, and I don't see any signs of it slowing down. So yeah, definitely adjust your expectations when it comes to housing.
And be on top of it every day. Check it if you're looking for a place. Tracy, I've heard this one quite a few times.
Are you talking about on a personal experience?
Absolutely. And what is it?
Contrary to what you may think, it is not a European vacation.
It's not like when you come to Europe for a week and you go to 3 different cities because you're American and you want to fit as much in as possible.
Because you only have 2 weeks vacation.
So we're guilty of that. We've done that before. But once you're here, it's not like that at all. You're busy with life.
Like trying to find a reasonably priced dry cleaner, or going to the grocery store, going to the market, finding a dentist, a doctor. Life goes on, picking up Tabasco's poop. I mean, like, that is the less glamorous side that you don't see on an Instagram feed. And yes, we travel because it's a little bit more accessible over here. But yeah, it is not on the day-to-day a European vacation.
And I had a friend that told me he felt like he'd get bored of traveling around and doing stuff. It's not like we wake up every day, you and I, and have go out for croissants and coffee for breakfast, and then pop around and walk through the canals for a couple of hours, and then, where are we going to have lunch? All of that type of stuff. We're busy. We have jobs.
We hit the snooze button like everyone else.
Yeah. It's just life.
Yeah, life goes on. And like I said, contrary to what you may see on social media, it is not the monotonous day-to-day stuff. That stuff still happens here. Life goes on and people live here.
Like at King's Day, after King's Day was done, I think I slept for 12 hours.
Oh, yeah. But that wasn't going on Instagram.
The next one will be that it's sometimes challenging to integrate. And by sometimes, I mean all the time.
All the time.
A lot of Dutch people, as well as American people, make their friend groups pretty early on in life.
Yeah, from a very young age. And coming in as a foreigner, it's very hard to break into those groups and those bonds. It's one of the things I really appreciate about the Dutch people is their loyalty to one another from a young age.
And we've made some friends here. Tammy and Eric, Nick and Tessa. Thankfully, they adopted us and they allow us to come over and hang out with some of their friends. It can also be hard because a lot of people here really won't let you into their friend group if you don't speak Dutch.
Yeah, and I think that is partly because it is, although the Dutch are incredibly proficient in English, they may have a harder time expressing themselves, just like we would trying to speak Dutch. So that is a challenge in itself. And another challenge of living here, just like any other country, is the Dutch are mostly welcoming to immigrants, but we have encountered many people who are not and who do not want you here, and we hear it constantly. And no matter how much you hear it, it still stings a little bit. Try not to take it personally, but yeah, there are people who tell you to go back to your home country. They don't want you here.
Yeah, a lot of people think that you're taking Dutch jobs away and
Dutch housing
away. So that's kind of hard to deal with, but it is really a struggle. And if you want to make friends, more than just expat friends, you really, really have to work at it.
Yeah, you have to put yourself out there. It's really, really hard, especially as an adult, to make those bonds. But, hey, we're determined and keep going.
Number 5 is going to be the salary here. The median salary for the Netherlands is a lot lower than you would expect. In the, 30s, thousands for people who are just getting started. Now, thankfully, we were able to move over with a 30% ruling, so we're able to get a little bit of a tax break on things. But compared to what I made in the US, it's definitely a lot less. I think we ended up going about 2/3 of what I made in the US, which is a big step. But we're also not paying for a lot of things. So that does help offset it quite a bit.
Yeah, it does. And for the taxes that we do pay and will pay if we choose to stay, eventually you do get quite a bit in return.
And that's not just in like a tax refund like you get in the US. It's actually in social services as well that work. You have a lot of employment benefits that come along with, like, if you ever do lose your job, the ability to stay. If you get burnt out, you get the ability to take time off at a little bit of a reduced pay, but be able to get your mind right and get things settled. But
your pension,
yeah,
things like that. But yeah, again, it kind of goes back to the housing situation. Whatever money you think you're going to need for the move, you need a lot more.
And on top of it, it's just the shock of saying, for example, if you make $100,000 in the US for the same job, you might be making $60,000.
Yeah.
That's a big step.
Yeah. So again, just educating yourself on the situation and come over with way more than you think you need.
Eyes open. Be ready for it.
Yep.
What do you think of this city?
I think we may need to do a city spotlight on it.
It is very, very cute. Lots of water and stuff around. Very gezellig.
I sound like a broken record, but man, the city is charming. Yeah,
Every city she goes to.
I know. And if you do happen to take the leap of faith and move over here, don't sleep on the smaller cities because you're missing out on so much. Yes, go to the big cities, but also go to the little tiny ones and smaller ones.
And remember that the big cities are only like a half hour away by train,
but we're like 10 minutes from Utrecht Central, so totally worth
checking out.
Yeah. Number 6, the Netherlands is not as much of a liberal progressive playground as you may think.
A lot of people hear of, that there's the first legal gay marriage here in the Netherlands. They hear about the sex work. They hear about the drug culture that's available here.
There's a lot of work that's being done on climate change, like particularly at the airport. So there are things like that that are progressive compared to other countries.
And a lot of people seem to think that those are indicators that the whole country is progressive.
Much like the United States, though, there is very much a spectrum of political affiliations from far left to far right. So you will encounter that, experience that here. And I would say a major difference with politics is just the sheer amount of political parties that you can belong to here.
There's dozens and dozens of political parties, like over 30 something, I think. When there
I feel
was
like there's more than that.
When they had the latest election for the Water Council, it was 2 full page spreads of just the people. It feels complicated to us, and it's also complicated to Dutch people. We know some people that take an online quiz to figure out who they should vote for, like a BuzzFeed quiz of which of the Disney princesses are you, for which of the political parties is most aligned up with what you feel.
I think it's probably a little more serious than that,
but it is an online quiz for it.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense when you have 50 maybe parties. I don't know. We'll put the actual number here.
Just like the US, you have some places that are very liberal and some places that are very conservative.
Yeah, there's something for everyone.
One complicated thing about moving to another country is how your citizenship works.
Yeah, unfortunately, the United States and the Netherlands don't have a treaty, pact, agreement that you can be a dual citizen of both countries.
Easily. There are some ways to do it, but on the whole, it is not really allowed if you're moving over.
So the time frame for becoming a Dutch citizen is about the 5-year mark when you need to do your inburgering.
Yep, which is a set of tests that you have to take. 3 of them are language.
One of them is culture/history. So we've still got a few more years to prepare.
But with that, you may end up in a situation where you lose your American citizenship, and denouncing your citizenship from any country is not something to be taken lightly.
Yeah, so it's definitely a situation where you need to weigh the pros and cons. If you're planning on staying here for a very long time, are you willing to give up your American passport for a Dutch one? There are pros and cons to each. What does that look like? Do you plan on ever moving back to the United States? There's a lot of questions that you need to think of. And like you said, it should not be taken lightly. It's a big deal.
The last one I think that we're going to talk about today is the convenience culture.
Yeah, if you are serious about moving over here, you need to start weaning yourself off of the convenience, need it now type of mentality that's very prevalent in the United States.
Like Amazon delivery just became a thing here, like 2 or 3 years ago, so it's still relatively new. If you're used to the 24-hour cycle that is American convenience culture, being able to go to Walmart at 3 a.m. and buy groceries, buy a pair of pants, buy whatever it is that you think you need at that moment, it's not really a thing here.
Yeah, the Dutch culture is very supportive of people who work in stores, and it's nice that they get to go home at a reasonable time and have dinner with their families or have days off. Like, it was just King's Day the other day, and a lot of the shops were closed. Some were open, but yeah.
It's really a situation where you're going to find yourself looking to do something those first couple of months and realizing that store doesn't open till noon on Sunday, or it's closed at 5 or 6 on a regular day. There are some days that have extended hours for most cities.
In Lida, it's Thursdays.
In other cities like Rotterdam, it could be Saturday or Friday, I believe.
So our best advice is to just plan ahead.
Yeah, and be ready for that thing that you need right now, having to wait.
Probably don't need it.
I think that takes us all the way through to the end.
I think so. There's probably some things we missed.
Well, we did miss a lot of stuff when it comes to talking about like your family, your friends. You're going to miss out on life events. You're going to miss out on the things that occur back. Time doesn't stand still just because you moved away.
Yep, there's weddings, birthdays, deaths, holidays. I mean, all those types of things you give up. What you get in return, that's up to you, and whether you decide it's worth it or not.
Yeah. And it's still something we struggle with. Like, the homesickness just hits you sometimes. Sometimes you're sitting and you're just like, oh, I just really want to like hug my family.
Yeah.
Or I just really want a corn dog.
It's more like a Costco hot dog. Sometimes I miss a Costco hot dog.
But I know we miss more.
Yeah,
If you have
absolutely.
made the move over and you have some things that you would like people to know before they make the move over, specifically Americans, put them down in the comments down below so that you can help other people just like we're trying to help people right now.
Yeah, and although we're trying to be cheeky and say, no, you shouldn't do it, if you're really determined and you have a lot of willpower and strength, you can make it work. It is not easy by any stretch of the imagination, and don't let anyone tell you that it is, because it is really freaking hard.
It is hard, but it can be worth it. You can get to explore new things. You can see a new way of life. Try some foods you never thought you would have had before. But all in all, if it's worth it, it's going to be your own decision.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us this week and watching this video. Slight little plug. If you don't follow us on Instagram, consider giving us a follow at TNT Go Dutch. When this video releases, we'll actually be traveling in Rome.
Yeah.
So we don't film our videos when we go to other countries, but we do post on Instagram and Facebook. So you can follow us there, and we will see you next week.
If you have any other places to go check out in Woerden, or you want to see a city video of Woerden, put us a comment down below as well. Please, if you can, subscribe. It really does help us out. And I think we will see you all
Next week.
next week.
Bye.
Bye.